Hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. Thank you so much for coming back to listen to more of Sara's War. If you would like to follow Brenda's Books online, I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This is Season 2, Episode 7, and today I will be narrating for you Chapter 9 of the future love story, Sara's War. Here we go. Chapter 9, Secrets Revealed. Mrs. Harrison sits by herself in the waiting room. Tears pour down her cheeks. Now that I don't have to worry about her husband being on the brink of death, I have room in my mind to feel sorry for her. I saunter toward her with a small smile on my face, so she knows I come in peace. She stares right at me, but says nothing. "Would you like to see your husband now?" I ask her. "Yes, please." She wrings her shaking hands. I no longer sense any vibes of fury. "Follow me," I say. Straight away, she stands and follows me into Surgery C, where her husband is still sound asleep. I pull up a chair next to the bed so she can sit close to him. "How long will he sleep?" she asks, taking her husband's hand. "As long as he needs to." She nods, fresh tears streaming down her face. I slide up another chair and sit beside her. "Will he be back to normal?" Mrs. Harrison asks in a shaky voice. "Yes, I believe so, but it may take a while. He did remarkably well during the surgery, but strokes are hard to recover from. He will probably have a hard time speaking and moving the right side of his body for quite some time, but it's possible he will make a full recovery within a few months." "Will he know who I am?" "Oh, yes! I already know that he will. His comprehension is fine," I assure her. "But how do you know? He's been asleep since the surgery. He was awake yesterday and was able to understand everything I was saying, and the surgery today wouldn't have any effect on his brain." Mrs. Harrison puts a hand over her heart and sighs in relief. "I didn't know that. I've been so worried." She turns to face me. "Why didn't you—" "I suppose I didn't give you a chance to tell me," she says, turning back toward her husband. I purse my lips. "I'm so sorry. I should have found a way to tell you anyway." Mrs. Harrison doesn't answer, but just stares at her husband's face. I place my hand over hers. "It's going to be all right, you know. Everything will work out." "I don't know," she blubbers, shaking her head. "It will, you'll see. He's still your husband and he still loves you. The two of you will be back to your lives before you know it." Mrs. Harrison lays her head in her hands and sobs as her body shakes violently. It's heartbreaking to watch. I let her cry while tears come to my own eyes. It seems that everyone's pain somehow reminds me of my own. "I'm sorry for what I said to you. I didn't mean it. I was just so worried." "I know, don't worry about it," I say. "You've been under an incredible amount of stress. And I didn't react well either. I apologize for that." She shakes her head. "You've been under stress too." She opens her mouth to say more, but her voice squeaks and cuts out. She clears her throat and tries again. "Thank you for what you did for him." Her voice is a fervent whisper. "Of course," I whisper back. She turns to face me and smiles through her tears, and I smile through mine. Once again, I'm sitting in the same hard wooden chair outside General Granger's office. I feel an incredible urge to wring my hands, so I make a conscious effort to put both palms flat on my lap. Ever since the General's secretary, Miss Plush, notified me, ordered really, to report to General Granger's office after the evening meal, I have been a nervous wreck. Why on earth does he want to see me? Did I miss some sort of protocol? Heaven knows that could happen easily. Did Colonel Haskins tell him I had called for a doctor without permission? Was there a duty I neglected? Did I miss a meeting? I wonder if I will have a chance to explain my tardiness yesterday. Now I wish I hadn't eaten dinner. My stomach wants to get rid of it. Miss Plush announces that the General has arrived and is ready to speak with me. My heart beats rapidly, and I'm afraid I'm starting to sweat. "You look so relaxed," Miss Plush says in her nasally voice as she leads me to the door. I have no idea if she is being sarcastic or not, but people have said this to me before when I was anything but relaxed. I honestly never tried to put on a facade.
It's just how my body reacts, I guess. I force a brief smile and step into the office of Mr. Intimidation. General Granger sits at his chair behind his desk. Standing up a few feet away from him is a tall blond man, about the same age as the general. Immediately, I notice his large Navy insignia sewn over his heart, showing me he is a Rear Admiral. What is going on? Private Andrews, thank you for coming. This is Rear Admiral Vincent, he says, gesturing toward the man standing up. I give him a stiff salute. Sir? The Rear Admiral responds with just a nod. Have a seat, please, General Granger says to me, motioning to the chair facing his desk. I promptly obey, but sit on the edge of my chair with my back straight. Another thing I do when I'm nervous. The general interlocks his fingers resting on his desk and leans forward. So, I hear we need to give you a new title. A new title, sir? Is it a promotion or a demotion? I have no idea. We've needed a doctor at Big Rock for some time now, he explains. I don't have a doctorate degree, sir, I say. I know that, but you're closer to a doctor than a medic. So that's what we will refer to you as. Sir, Don't argue with me, Andrews. I would think you would be honored. I am, sir. Then why are you whining to me? I want to roll my eyes. I'm sorry, General. From now on, I'm a doctor. Thank you. The General nods once and points a finger at me. If you want to be under my jurisdiction at all, you can't be soft. Not one bit. I'm not sure how admitting I don't have a doctorate degree is being soft. But I'm not going to argue with him. I understand, sir. The General nods again. Now, tell me about Harrison. How soon can we have him back to active duty? It's hard to say, General. He's got a long recovery ahead of him. Give me a time frame. Weeks? Months? Months is more likely, I tell him. A flash of disappointment crosses General Granger's face, and I see the Rear Admiral bite his lip and look out the window. What can we do to speed up the process? Granger asks. Well, he needs a physical therapist, I say. Done. Chief Warrant Officer White. Make sure you work with her. What else? The General has an edge to his voice. Almost like if he asked the questions faster, Petty Officer Harrison would recover sooner. Maybe a speech therapist as well. And he will need to routinely come into relief for checkups. Checkups for what? The General asks. Checkups to see how his blood and his brain are doing. General Granger purses his lips. How long until his memory comes back? It's strange, but he actually looks afraid of the answer. His memory appears to be fine, General, I say. The General raises his eyebrows briefly, obviously relieved. Good, he says. Then he quickly shifts back into business mode. Will these things move months of recovery into weeks of recovery? I don't think so, sir. It will still take months at least. Strokes are like a cannon to the body. The General places one tight fist on his desk. He looks like he's trying to calm himself. I need him sooner than that, he says, his voice low. I shake my head slowly. I really don't think that's possible, General, but I will do everything I can. The General closes his eyes and leans back in his chair. There has got to be a way. Keep thinking. I already have, sir. Perhaps if you told me what his duties have been, then I will be able to determine approximately how soon he can come back to them, I suggest. Admiral, says the General, you know this better than me. He did a number of things, says the Admiral. Gee, that was helpful. I assume he did a lot of physical labor, I ask. He did a great deal of it, the Admiral says. Could he be less specific? What exactly were his duties, Admiral? I ask. He sighs impatiently. Does it matter? It would certainly help, sir. Why won't he just answer the question? Does he expect me to know this from Army orientation that I didn't have? General Granger bows his head so low that his chin is on his chest. This is obviously distressing him. Forgive me for saying this, Admiral, but there are other men who can be trained as seamen. For goodness sakes, they drafted me into the Army. Why not another petty officer in the Navy? And furthermore, why does the Admiral even concern himself with a petty officer? The Rear Admiral shakes his head emphatically. I need Harrison, he says hoarsely. I want to ask him why, but I don't think he'll give me an answer. There is a long pause. The General has his elbows on the armrests of his seat, with his fingers at his lips, growing more and more grave by the moment. He appears as if he is looking through me, contemplating something. The silence is disturbing. Finally, the General sighs. Just tell her, Vincent. The Admiral turns his head to look at General Granger. She doesn't need to know, he says. General Granger turns his head to the side to speak to the Admiral, but refuses to look him in the eye. But she can tell us when he can do his job if she knows what it is, he says. The Admiral lets out a soft groan and then a resigned sigh. Petty Officer Harrison is our oldest man enlisted in the Navy, he tells me. He was drafted about a year ago, and although he's at a rather low rank, we use him a lot. He has a great deal of knowledge that is useful to us, particularly of submarines. I recall back to when Colonel Haskins mentioned an emergency at the waterfront. Perhaps Harrison is also involved somehow. Only high-commissioned officers know the whole situation, and Petty Officer Harrison because of his knowledge. The Admiral sighs again. I can tell he does not like discussing this with me. But I suppose that includes you now, too, he says, his voice reluctant. He pauses while I wait patiently for him to continue. The Admiral now sounds agitated when he speaks. Our enemies are trying to attack our base by means of submarines. Well, that's not exactly right. I believe they are trying to steal something from us, but we don't know what. Their men keep trying to board our docks. They keep blowing missiles at the army tanks. We have tried to fight back, but their submarines always disappear before we can detect them. Don't we have submarines, sir, here at the base? Of course, but our 5 submarine experts were all killed in a blast last year. You had them all in one place? I blurt out without thinking. Of course not. The Admiral sounds even more frustrated now, and a large vein in his forehead pops out. We had quite a colossal battle from submarine to submarine last year. He shakes his head. The story is too long. The point is, we cannot beat our enemies this way, not without our experts. Why are you keeping this classified? I ask. Doesn't seem like it's necessary, but then again I don't know the whole story. The Admiral sucks in a deep breath and mumbles something under his breath that I'm unable to catch. I sense he is growing more tired by the minute. We don't know who the enemy is, he says, resigned. I bite my tongue to keep myself from blurting out again. How is this possible? We can't identify the flags or the signs or the language. I inhale deeply, stunned by this news. In short, we don't know who they are, what they want, or how to fight back. The Admiral sounds irritated, and in his clenched jaw I see a muscle jump. Perhaps if you let the secret out, I say slowly, more minds could work on the problem. Dr. Andrews, General Granger says, you have to understand. The General of the Army hired me to turn Big Rock around, and we will. Aha! So the real reason this is classified is because of the man's pride. He doesn't want the word to get out that he has a situation that is out of control. Forgive me, sir, but maybe we could handle it better and faster if more people were allowed to help. General Granger gives me a sharp look. If I add one more duty, one more stress, one more grief to my soldiers and officers, we will all fall apart. I am sure of it. Then the General pauses, his tone softer now. I can see that everyone is nearly broken. It has been a long war, I say. Yes, he says with a bow of his head. Now tell me, how long until Harrison can be some use to us again? I would plan on his hiatus for at least 6 months, I tell him. Regaining speech and mobility have a lot of variables to consider after a stroke. But usually, most substantial progress is made within that time frame. I should know better at that point. The General closes his eyes and breathes slowly through his nose. He probably will never get back to the heavy labor he did before, I say, despite General's obvious displeasure at my information. But I'm hopeful enough to say that, eventually, he will be able to relay information just as he had before. The General nods. We must get a replacement, Admiral Vincent says in a low voice. That's for a different discussion, Admiral, the General says without taking his eyes off me. Thank you, Doctor. You're dismissed. Yes, sir, I say. But before I go, sir, I can hear an edge of desperation in my voice. I would like to explain to you why I was tardy to my first meeting yesterday, if I may. No need, Granger says, waving his hand. Colonel Haskins already petitioned on your behalf. He explained everything. He mentioned you were already handling the situation when he arrived, and you didn't really need his intervention. Well done. No, I did need him, sir. Then I realize I hadn't even thanked the Colonel yet. The General raises his eyebrows, looking amused. You don't want to take credit? I didn't enjoy doing what I did, General. Self-defense is never enjoyable, Dr. Andrews. Just necessary. I nod. Thank you, sir. Anyway, that situation is being dealt with, and you will have your new insignia badge pinned on tomorrow. I'm not concerned about recognition, sir. I just don't want you to have a false impression of me. Indeed, Doctor. And I assure you the impression I had was not good. But I am surprised that you have already exceeded my expectations, especially after what you did for Petty Officer Harrison. Just doing my job, General. Yes, you performed well. Now, let us all retire for the day, he says, popping his pen into the black plastic holder in front of him. Thank you, General Granger, I say, getting to my feet. Oh, and remember, the General says in a rush. I sit back down. The situation we spoke to you about is classified. Speak of it to no one, not even your nurses, he says, his voice firm. You have my word, General. I stand and give him the stiffest salute I can manage. And to my surprise, General Granger stands up straight and salutes me back. And that concludes Chapter 9. Sara is finally starting to get the respect and trust she deserves. Isn't that how it always is when we go somewhere new or do something different with new people? It's always difficult before it gets better. Anyway, I hope you all have a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday and that you're surrounded by wonderful people. And if you're not in America, I hope you have a great week. Please come back and join me next Thursday for Chapter 10, which is called One Truth Told. This is one of my favorite chapters, and I hope you enjoy it too.
If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.